The following is a special presentation of the Red Stick Business Report. Watch future episodes on Soul of the South or contact your local cable provider.
Hi, welcome to the Red Stick Business Report Show. I'm Howard White, your host. For this 30-minute show, we interview some of the most dynamic leaders in Baton Rouge. The information that we share on this show is not to impress you, but to impress upon you that you too can make a difference in this world. Today, I have a very unique guest, and I say that with the utmost respect, and that's Miss Renee Austin Duffin.
Hi, Howard.
Hey, first of all, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I must tell you, one of the things about scheduling a show like this with someone who's very busy is that we probably had about a train of about 20 to 30 emails.
At least.
And the great thing about it, her spirit, she said, if it's meant to be, it will happen. So today we are here taping the show. Well, Miss Austin, first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about your background and tell us where you're from.
I am from a very, very small town in central Louisiana. It's about 20 miles south of Alexandria. It's called Forest Hill. It is so small, in fact, we do not even have a red light. It's finally been classified as a town. We were a village up until just a few years ago. I grew up on a dirt road that was just paved within the last 10 years. So I'm very, very small town Louisiana.
You know, the funny thing about that, I remember meeting Dr. Rod Page, and he said, most great people are from small towns, so you fit that bill.
Thank you.
But, you know, talk a little bit about that, the values that were instilled in you growing up in that small town.
I think the advantage of growing up in a small town is the fact that you know everybody, and everybody knows you. And while you have your biological family and your parents to help rear you, you also have an extended family through your community. Everybody knows you, everybody knows your mom and dad, all of your siblings. But if you do something wrong, then Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, they had your parents' permission to discipline you and spank you if necessary, and then bring you home and tell them that they did that. And so that was always something that now, in hindsight, I realized was an advantage for me, is because it helped me to remember my upbringing at home and in church, and to know that God is always watching, but also our neighbors were always watching too. So I think that was an advantage of growing up in a very small town.
You know, you say that God is watching, but also Miss Johnson is watching too. Talk about that Miss Johnson that really spoke to you, a person outside of your family that really poured into you as a youth.
I would have to say that it was not just one person, but it was my church family that I grew up in, a very small Baptist church, First Union Baptist Church, that is still there. My mother is still a member. They have about 5 or 6 members now, but it was much bigger than that growing up. But at that time, we called everyone aunt and uncle, whether they were related to you or not. We called the elders aunt and uncle. And there were people like Aunt Bessie, who passed away this year at 102 years old, who was my godmother. There was Uncle Sammy and Big Joe and Uncle Mathis, and they were the elders of the church. But they had such a powerful influence on my life in that not only did I see them at Sunday school and at church service and Christmas programs and Easter programs, but also they were concerned about my education. They were concerned about my well-being. They were always offering me advice, spiritual advice, and helping me to understand how to use God in my life and to put Him first. So I think it was, you know, my church community that had a significant impact on me.
You know, when we talk about family and I look at your bio, in today's time, you would never have a family like this with 17 siblings, 18 total. Talk about never being a dull moment in a household and how parents made things, I guess you would say, make ends meet with all those kids.
Yeah. We have I grew up in a blended family. I'm the only child that my parents have together, but When they were married, they brought together 17 other children.
So you're really talking about Brady Bunch on steroids.
Exactly, on some good steroids. But we're all considered one family. And you know, neither of my parents had a formal education, and so they worked very hard. They raised a lot of their own fruits and vegetables. We always had a garden. We always had animals. There was chickens or pigs or cows. And we grew up really on a farm. Okay. And so it was always very difficult in not understanding why, when you would ask for something, you didn't get it right away. And you thought Mom and Daddy was being mean, but really they were saving the money to be able to purchase for you later. I remember as a kid one year I wanted an inchworm, and I didn't get it for Christmas, but I got it for in August for my birthday. And so I loved my inchworm, but it took me 8 months to get it, but that was okay. And so I appreciate my parents in that they always made ends meet. We never went without. We were always well fed and clothed, grew up in a clean home. We worked hard. Right. You know, they did instill in us the value of working hard and earning what we, you know, got. I started working when I was 13 years old, and I wanted to do it to be able to buy my own school clothes, so that would not be a burden for my parents. And but I just remember them always saying that you will either work or you will go to school. But you will go to school and you will get an education. You will get something that we never had. And that stuck with me, in that wanting to achieve and make my parents proud.
You know, talk a little bit about that then, as you got ready to leave, you know, from a small environment to come to LSU. I mean, the university was 10 times the size of your town. But talk about that experience of first the decision and then that first experience on campus.
Well, the decision was driven a lot by the fact that one of my classmates, his father was the chancellor at LSU Alexandria at the time, and he was going to LSU. And we were really good friends, and there were several other of my classmates going as well. And so I made the decision to follow where I knew I would have friends. And I remember my mom bringing me to campus the first time and dropping me at the dormitory, and I thought, oh my God, I've never lived anywhere other than at home. I'd never gone to summer camp or anything like that. I'd always stayed with family, and now I'm going to be living with a total stranger, you know. I remember going to my first psychology class, and there were 450 students in the class.
Wow.
I did not have 450 students in my entire high school. And so that was a major, major shock for me. And it was so overwhelming that I made a decision to go back home and attend LSU Alexandria for the next year and a half. Okay. And get better acclimated to being in college and understanding university life. And then I came back as a junior and finished up. But it was pretty overwhelming.
I can imagine a similar situation. Small town, not quite as small, but we had two red lights at the time.
Oh, you big time.
Yeah, big time. Now it's only a caution light, unfortunately. But no, I definitely understand that, and coming into an environment like that. Mm-hmm. But one of the things we're going to do in the next segment, we're really going to explore your years at LSU and your career, because I think there are a lot of students out there that are facing similar challenges, maybe not from such a small town, but making that decision to transition from where they are mm-hmm. to where they can be. Exactly. And I think that's very important to discuss. So on our next episode, we'll be back with Ms. Alston Duffin to discuss her LSU years and all the great things that she did afterwards. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. The clock didn't reset. Hi, I'm Howard White. Welcome back to the Red Stick Business Report Show. I'm sitting here today with my guest, Ms. Renee Duffin, and there's a story behind that, and we'll talk about that later. But let's get back into your LSU years. If you would, Renee, talk a little bit about what made you decide to go into business.
Well, one of the things I always wanted to be in work in government. And so I also knew that in order to be effective, I needed to have a strong business background. And so at the time, LSU offered a business and public administration degree. And so I actually got the best of both worlds in that I got the business background with the marketing and accounting, but then I also got the political science background too from the public administration aspect.
Okay. The other thing that's important, I think, is critical when you look at college years are those professors and faculty members that really serve as mentors. Talk about a couple of those stories that you had and probably still lean on some of those people.
Yeah, there are a couple. Dr. Dan Kyle was an accounting professor at LSU for many, many years, then became the legislative auditor for the state. And I'm not very much of a math person, but Dr. Kyle actually made accounting fun.
Wow.
And, but he was also very enjoyable to listen to, always made funny stories in class, but then also was able to take you to his office and share with you how to apply the principles that you were learning in the class, the theory, how you could apply it to practical experience. And so I'll never forget that. And then when I made a decision to pursue my master's degree, it was as a result of Dr. Jewel Prestige at Southern University, who is a world-renowned political scientist. And I wanted the best of that world as well. And so she was a driving factor in terms of my going to Southern University to pursue my master's in public administration.
Yeah, I know Dr. Prestige, knowing her personally and having sat down with her, she's a wealth of knowledge,
Yes,
even
she is.
today as she approached 90 years old.
Wow.
I mean, just a great person. If you could reach back, and you probably often get a chance to do that with youth today, and help them say, how do I factor what college I go to, what university? What advice would you give them?
The advice that I would give them is choose the university that's going to meet a wealth of your needs. Not just your academic career, not just your social needs in terms of the football games and the partying and that type of thing, but that can accommodate and meet all of those. Look at your learning style. Do you learn best in a large class? Do you learn best in a small class? Do you learn best with a lot of one-on-one assistance from your instructors? So look at a number of different things when you're making your decisions about a university, and really about your career in total, because the path that you choose to make a career out of it is going to drive what university you go to. Look at the programs that they offer. If you're undecided about your major, then perhaps maybe you consider a community college just to get your curiosity up about the types of things that you want to pursue. But I also encourage young people to identify someone in the community that they want to be when they grow up. What do you want to be when you grow up? And identify that person in the community and ask, may I tag along with you at work today? Can I interview you to understand better what it is that you do and how you do it and your career path and your educational background? Don't be afraid to ask for that, because in a lot of cases, in my example personally, I didn't grow up around people that were in politics or people that were in business. I grew up in a little small country town. And so my idea of what I wanted to do with my life came from my upbringing and how I wanted to make a difference and change the world in so many ways. So identify someone in the community, or if you know of a leader, like you knew Dr. Prestige, and if that was a path that you wanted, go and sit down and talk to her. Ask your faith-based leaders to help you with that as well, because they have those types of connections. But look at the university for a wealth of different things to help guide your decision making.
And I think you bring out a very great point, seeking out mentors, but also seeking out advice, even if a person is not a long-term mentor, just from a distance, the advice that they share with you sometimes can make a world of difference.
Yes, and I do encourage people to get a mentor. I'm well into over 20 years into my career, and I've had a professional mentor for the vast majority of it. And it's one of those things that you have someone that you can go to and listen to you and help you think things through in a very rational way that you wouldn't do otherwise.
Yeah, I was told best to me once, the mentor is a person that has your best interest at heart, but they're going to objectively correct you when need be.
Exactly, and we all need that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, talk about going into your professional career now. Why public service versus straight business?
Public service was always near and dear to my heart, in that I grew up listening to my mom, who had 13 children of her own, biological children, and how she had applied for public assistance one day and was denied.
Wow.
And but at the time she was working 2 and 3 jobs to meet the needs of her family, and she vowed never to go back and apply again. And I just felt like that was wrong because she was in need and was denied assistance. And so that story always stuck with me, and I wanted to change that, and I wanted to be able to make a difference in people's lives and understand on a much deeper level the challenges that they were facing. I remember writing in my high school memory book, and they probably don't have those these days.
They're digital now, so they still have them, but they're digital.
But writing in my high school memory book how I wanted to one day serve as a special assistant to the governor, and so that I could make a difference, so that I could do something to help change the world. And so that led me to government.
You wrote that, and you actually did. You wound up being the secretary to the governor.
Yeah.
Talk briefly about that, and we're going to dive into that a little bit.
Sure. I was working in Governor Foster's administration, and I was the undersecretary of the Department of Social Services initially, and then went on to become Deputy Commissioner of Administration. And when Governor Foster ran for a second term, he asked me to, and successfully won, he asked me to serve as the Secretary of the Department of Social Services. I was humbled and honored because I was so young at the time. I was only 34 years old. And it was a massive undertaking. Department of Social Services at that time was the 3rd largest department of state government here in the state of Louisiana.
Wow, 6,000.
Over 6,000 employees. And so I was newly married and starting two new lifetimes of change for myself. And but I was very humbled in that the state employees that worked for me at the Department of Social Services were dedicated and committed to serving the public. They endured a lot because you were dealing with the public all day, but they stood fast and they ensured that the needs of the individuals were being met. And so I thoroughly enjoyed my time as Secretary of the Department of Social Services.
You know, one of the things that we're going to touch on when you come back is that you don't choose public service, but really public service choose you. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So stay tuned for the next for the next segment of the Red Stick Business Report. Hi, welcome back to the Red Stick Business Report show. This is one of those shows where I wish I had a whole hour to go into detail, but we're going to jump right back in with Ms. Renee Duffett. Renee, you know, we've skipped over a lot of your professional accomplishments because I really want to touch on a statement. One of my mentors, John Maxwell, said, once you taste significance, success does not matter. If you would, talk about that life experience that made you realize what would be significant for you.
One of my sisters was diagnosed with breast cancer about 10 years ago. And she lived in California at the time, but she had always wanted to retire and move back home. And her disease forced her to take an early retirement. And she came back home, and I became her caregiver.
Wow.
And so I promised her that I would not leave her, that I would be there for her till the end. And in November, it'll be 7 years since she passed away. And I was the only one up when she took her last breath at 2:56 a.m. in the morning.
You know, that really sticks with me because I remember the first time, we've known each other for a while, but we sat down one morning for coffee and I asked you, you know, why Mary Bird Perkins? Because of some of the things you've done. People say, well, that's a lateral move at best for you, and you shared that story. Talk about why it is important with what you do at Mary Bird Perkins.
Well, my sister was treated at Mary Bird Perkins, and when I would take her for her appointments and her treatments, I always thought, God, what a wonderful place to work. Everyone here lives the mission, you know. Everyone was so friendly and compassionate and caring. And it was pretty ironic because she passed away on a Sunday morning. I came back to Baton Rouge on that Monday to get close for the funeral, and I told my husband, because I quit my job to take care of her when she went into hospice, and I told my husband, I said, well, I got to get back to work now. And I took out the Sunday paper and looked in the want ads, and the position that I'm in now was there. And I applied, so it was truly divine intervention. It was her first act when she got to heaven. And but for me, it was a defining moment in knowing that there are so many people out there who could benefit from services that they don't have access to.
Right.
And one of the important roles that I play at Mary Bird Perkins is our community outreach efforts in helping to educate the community about the importance of being screened for cancer, about healthy diet, exercise, and how all of those things impact your life. Another thing that I'm responsible for is helping people understand the importance of knowing your family history and taking personal responsibility for your health. Do not wait until something has manifest in terms of a sign or a symptom, but get those annual checkups and take responsibility for your own health. And so I get to do that every day, and it is quite an accomplishment. There's not a day in the week that I don't get up and feel really good about going to work, because I know at the end of that day, we will have helped someone that otherwise could not have been helped because they lack access to care or health insurance. And so I count it a blessing and a joy that I am able to do that, and I get paid to do it.
You know, you said because they lack health insurance. Talk about how you provide those services when a person doesn't have insurance.
Well, we provide free cancer screenings for 5 different types of cancer: breast, skin, prostate, colorectal, and oral cavity. And we target primarily the uninsured and the underinsured. And we're able to do that through the generosity of the community, through grants and contracts that we have to be able to provide those services. And so for individuals who do not have health insurance or they're underinsured, they can come to our mobile clinic. We have 2 mobile clinics that serve 18 parishes in southeast Louisiana, and they can come to those on any given day and be screened at no cost. All of our screening information is on our website as to where we're going to be. We try to do the screenings at locations and times that are convenient for the public. We take it to the community because we're more likely to get people engaged and involved, as opposed to telling the community, come to our building, come to us.
Yeah, and I've seen you at barbershops, football games. I mean, where people are, that's where you are. It's
pretty interesting. Women will call to schedule a breast screening, and we'll tell them we're going to be in the parking lot at Walmart, and they're like, okay, how am I going to get a mammogram in the parking lot at Walmart? So, you know, but again, it's making it convenient and serving the community and being able to give back in a way where you make a difference. And it's quite fulfilling, and it helps me to understand that there are people in need.
Wow. People in need. I think that's the key thing when I look and listen to what you do, because I have a chance to work with you away from the TV set and get a chance to experience that. Well, Renee, it's been a great pleasure having you on. Like I said, I wish I had the whole 60 minutes, but we only have 30. So once again, thanks for tuning in to the Red Stick Business Report. Hopefully you have learned something today, something that will benefit you, and you will go out and make a difference in this world. Until the next time,